Well, when it rains, it pours. I just cranked the steering all the way to one side and blew out that. So now that's exploded. So awesome. We're back working on the power steering. So here is the story in a nutshell. Basically, everything was sitting for 30-something years and everything was almost 50 years old. So I was like, okay, let's replace all of it. So we got a kit, new pump, new slave cylinder, new control valve, and new hoses. In the last video, you saw there was a failure, and so I was like, well, let's replace what we know is gone bad, which was the pump, and then also the slave cylinder. Replace those. Drove the car around. It didn't sound right. Something was just off about it, and the power steering was making way too much noise, even though it was full and it was bled. It sounded wrong. So I was like, you know what? Next thing, this control valve. Replace that control valve. I bled the system. It sounds good. It works good, but there was a leak, and I was like, that's really weird because everything's new, everything's tight. There should not be a leak. So basically, what I did is I sat under the car and just watched it, and finally figured out what was wrong. So it's funny, I said at one point, I've never seen a hydraulic hose go bad. Do you see that little split right there? I don't know if that shows up on camera, but there's, I can see that split. That was leaking. So what I'm trying to say is, all the pieces from eBay, every single one was bad in some way, form, or fashion. So now all the parts that I have are from Lone Star Caliper, which is it's where I buy all my brake stuff from. So I probably should buy all my power steering stuff from them. You can see on the hoses, made in USA by Americans with Goodyear rubber. These ones probably made in China, but I mean, it's literally right next to the little green dot that says okay. This was weeping. You can see actually inside of here it's all wet. I think inside of here is bad too, but it was dripping all up and down, and I'm like, fine. I will replace every single piece with what I should have started with and go from there. One thing that has always bugged me about this car, and I'm sure a lot of people have noticed it and have mentioned something about it, are these mirrors. So these are like a 70s add-on mirror. I guess they were cool whenever these cars were newer. I mean, the car was only driven for 10 years, so somewhere between 75, and 1985, people put these on their cars. But I want to take them off and put the stock mirrors back on. And so what I'm planning on doing is taking these off just to see what kind of holes they've drilled in the door and if there's any kind of repairing it. Sometimes, these brackets that hold it on will have, big holes, and there'll be extra holes, and because the base of the stock mirror is only about this big. So let's see what we can figure out. Okay, well, that's good news. It looks like there's a possibility that they use, maybe not. Okay, so they didn't use the factory holes on this side because I don't think there were factory holes on this side. So like most Corvettes of this age, the passenger side never had a mirror, so they just drilled holes in the door. If you come over here to the driver's side, you can see where the factory mirror sat. Basically, it lines up with that part inside the door. I'm going to see where the holes are on the other side. I feel like they were really wide, so we're just going to have to see what we can do about that. I think I might be able to cover up one, but I don't think I'll be able to cover up both if I put factory mirrors on. It's always nerve-wracking to drill holes in the car. Luckily, there already were holes in the car. So I have a video on doing this, so I'm not going to spend much time on it, but as you noticed, it wasn't really lined up, and the reason why is because I wanted to line up the first hole with a hole that was already in there. This sticker sucks. Nah. And then the plan is the gasket that covers the mirror base should cover that second hole. So here's kind of the idea. That's how it should look when it's done. So hopefully all of the remnants from the old mirror will be gone. That hole will be covered and the mirror will look better. This other side already looks better. Check it out. I don't know why anybody thought that this mirror looked better than that one, but I guess late 70s, early 80s bullet mirrors were in, old 60s chrome mirrors were out. One of the things on this convertible that it needs is carpet. So remember, this interior is 110% original. Nothing's ever been changed, ever been out, or anything like that. The good part is that even though, you know, the seat piping's kind of wavy, I think the seats will actually clean up. The car only has, I think it's 72,000 miles, and we're going to keep as much of the interior original as we can. We're going to clean up the top dash, all the windshield frame, the center console, the column. We're going to clean up the seats, and then we're going to replace all this carpet. So it would be cool to be like, yeah, the carpet's all original, but I mean, honestly, guys, look at this. I mean, it's just not, to me, it's just not worth, it's not worth keeping. I mean, look. Weirdly enough, there's people that take original carpet out and then clean it and then dye it, but the problem is it looks like a fuzzy teddy bear, and it won't ever not look like a fuzzy teddy bear. Putting carpet in the car, basically what you want to do is lay the new one down, put the old one on top, and then trace around it, because they make them bigger than they're supposed to be. That way you can trim it to fit. I'm not going to show that process. I have a video I made a long time ago, but it's the same information on how to do this. Something I do want to show you is, look at this tag. This is the tag that came on these from the factory. Now, interestingly enough, this is such an early 75. This says 1974 Corvette wheelhouse cover, blah, blah, blah. So, obviously, the very first or second day of production in 75, they were using leftover 74 parts, which if I was GM, I would do that too. So I'm gonna keep that with the car. That's kind of cool. But so the back carpet is 99% done. I just need to replace the little frame that goes around that because it broke. But check out old, new versus old. I'm gonna record this because I love doing this. So a lot of times cars that have original carpet have all kinds of money and all kinds of stuff hidden underneath the seats. Now this one, since it was only on the road for what, 11 years, so far I've been underwhelmed, but you just never know what you can find. So let's take the seat out and see what we see. Interesting. Well, I think we're disappointed. There's not even coins in here. What the heck? There's pretty much nothing in this car. You can kind of see the original color of the carpet. There's matches. I doubt we'll have any more luck on that passenger seat. But something interesting is the little switches for the seatbelt interlocker undone, which is really not surprising considering that they almost all did that. Another interesting thing about this car, which you never see, is these seat belts actually work. Usually they fill with water over years and turn into garbage. Over here on these seats is something I've never seen. I've never seen these seats, the seat frames and the seat tracks actually still have paint on all of them. The reason being is usually these cars are left outside, water gets in them from the tops leaking, and then, you know, just the moisture turns, you know, something like this, you know, just to rusty. Not necessarily unusable rusty, just I've never seen paint on them before at all. The biggest mud dauber nest yet. Oh. 1, 2, 3. Oh, this one's still plugged in. Oh. And I see pennies. So something interesting, two things interesting. One, on all the other pieces of carpet, I have found this tag. Each factory piece had a tag on it from the company that made it. It says 1974 Corvette wheelhouse, so it came from the carpet in the back. This is such an early 75 that it had 74 interior pieces in it. That's interesting. The other thing is interesting is this. I've never seen two-piece interior carpets like this. I don't know why they're like that. I don't know if that's factory or if somebody replaced just the front. They look like they're the same though. Of course, that's part of the front. They do look a little different. Let's see what the backs look like. I think somebody replaced just the wheel wells and was cheap, because they look like they're made differently. But here on this side, not really much to report other than garbage, and we got like 2 cents. So that's good, but also kind of annoying. All right, passenger carpet is out. I think this is factory, and the reason why I think that is because 75 was the first year for the catalytic converter, which would live right here. But also, I mean, these perforations, no one would do that if they were gonna throw this in, and no one would cut it the way that this is cut if it was just some dude that threw this down. Other thing I figured out is that looks like these seatbelt wires were installed after the carpet was put in, which is weird. Obviously that's a system that we don't want to work, anything like that, so we'll just kind of tuck it up under. And check this out. I have never actually seen a really nice original factory seatbelt like this one. Look how nice that is. But that's what happens when you have a car this original, I guess. Here we go. Here's the interior all back together, all cleaned up, and looking really, really good. The only piece I don't have are the rear quarter trims. Got new ones, haven't come in yet. But other than the carpet, this interior really hasn't been restored. It's exactly the way it came back in 1975. All the original sun visors and upper windshield trim. A perfect top dash. Perfect dashboard. Gauge panel, gauges, column. Unrestored center console. You'll see a little bit of wear in the door panels and also on the seats, but you know what? It's unrestored, guys. You can't get any better than that. This is as close as you're ever going to get to seeing what a brand new 1975 Corvette looked like from the showroom floor. Go. It runs smooth, it runs quiet. I've run 32 miles in this car since it's been brought back to life. I haven't really had a single issue other than crappy parts. But yeah, everything's resolved and it's ready to go home. So sad to tell you guys, this car actually belongs to somebody else. It never was my car to begin with. I've had probably 30 different people inquire about it and be like, hey, are you gonna sell it when you're done? Well, I'd love to, but I can't. It's not mine. So it's going to go up to the West Coast where convertibles belong and live the rest of its life in happiness. So as I said before, this is going to be the end of this video series on this car, but there's always more Corvettes to buy. There's always more things to fix. So I'll see you guys in the next one.